Since we introduced him last night, we won't take time to do it again this morning. This is Tamas.
Thank you, Pastor Leo, and thank you for the opportunity again to share this time about our ministry. I'm going to wait until technology connects. Who here remember us from 2018? Okay. Some do, some don't. For some of you, it is going to, what I'm about to share, it is going to be something I have shared in 2018. And some things will be, in 2018, it was a vision. And now I'm very happy and blessed that I can give you a report how that vision became reality since 2018. But let me start with Senia and myself. I don't know how many of you know us, how many of you we had the opportunity to connect personally, but just very briefly, Senia and I are married for 13 years. We both went to seminary. Senia at the Baptist Seminary in Budapest studied spiritual counseling. Then she started working with Word of Life as assistant to director. Right now, she is leading guest services at Word of Life. And I studied at the seminary to become a pastor. I pastored for 7 years before transitioning from a pastoral position to full-time missionary with Word of Life. In 2017 to early 2018, it was a 6-month period of transition. This is Europe, and we come from Eastern Europe, Middle Eastern Europe. I was born in Romania, actually. You see the Carpathian Mountains there? Just in the corner, very little town, that's where I was born and raised. That part of Romania, the Carpathian Mountains, look very much like here. We have mountains, woods, pine trees, lakes. The climate is somewhat similar, so I feel very much home coming to Penyan. And we both, Senia grew up in Tolmash. I went to Tolmash, to Word of Life Bible School, and that's where we met in 2005. Long time ago. Yeah. When I talk to some of the students and campers, and they tell me how I ended up at Word of Life and when we got married, and I say 2005, and they tell me that I was born in 2010 and 12, and I'm like, oh my God. You weren't even born when I was a student there. Before I move on, let me talk a little bit about Europe. I think Europe is a very interesting, very challenging place spiritually. Would you consider, and I think most people would consider Europe as a Christian continent. Is that right? It is certainly and definitely not a Muslim continent, at least not yet, not a Buddhist continent. We would consider it as a Christian continent. But let me tell you something shocking about the spiritual reality of Europe. In comparison to some of the 1040 Windows countries, China, India, Iraq, Egypt, Ethiopia, these are just some of the countries that I highlighted. These are the percentage of Christian religious people in these countries, percentage-wise. In China, 9.2, India, 2.3. And these numbers here represent the true Christians. So not just born to be in a Christian family, not just attending church once in a while, but actually born-again Christians. And you see that these two numbers in these countries are not very far away from each other. When you come to Hungary, we have 87% of the population thinking and falsely believing that they are Christians. Less than 1% of this 87% are true born-again Christians. Actually, the number is so low, it is very hard to do statistics on it. There are major cities in Hungary and all over Europe, big cities. You can go in some of these big cities and find exactly 0 Bible-preaching, Bible-believing churches. You will find huge cathedrals all over Europe, Try going a Sunday morning. In a huge cathedral that can host 500 to 1,000 people, it will be less than here today morning. That's the spiritual reality of Europe. That's why I call Europe the new 1040 window. Because if we Christians don't reach out to Europeans, it is going to become the new 1040 window. Yesterday, my brother talked about Bethlehem. How Bethlehem was mostly Christian how many years ago? 40 years ago. And now it's mostly Muslim, right? Brothers and sisters, the same thing is going on in Europe. It is much larger, but it's going to happen just like in Bethlehem. In a few generations, I think by the time I will be 60, 70, I think if these numbers don't turn around very soon, Europe is going to be the next Bethlehem. Muslim is the fastest growing religion in Europe. Actually, it is not growing, it is exploding. The great growth of Christianity in Europe is barely in the positive in some countries. In most Western countries, it is in the negative. In Hungary, it's still in the positive, but just on the brink. I think in a few years, all European countries, the rate of Christianity's growth is going to be in the negatives, while the Muslims are exploding, which is good. We have a lot of Muslim people to reach out, but we are going to be like Bethlehem very soon. I think it is very important that we do ministry to Europeans. And this is why we haven't left, when we were called into full-time ministry, we haven't left our own country because we said, and this is how we felt the Spirit of God is leading us. We can reach out to our own people. We don't have to learn a new language. We don't have to learn a new culture. We don't have to establish ourselves, buying a house and buying a car. We are already there. We have connections. And the mission field is there. The harvest is plentiful. The problem we face is we don't have workers. So we just stayed in Hungary, and we feel called to stay in Hungary and reach out to our own people because the harvest is plentiful. Workers are very few. Some of the most underfunded missionaries are in Europe. I talk to so many of my missionary friends, and they're struggling to stay on the field, not because they don't feel called, not because they don't feel passionate about the ministry. They just simply cannot afford it. And I have lost a number of fellow missionaries in the past years because they had to go back to work, because they have to provide for their families, and they just have to raise their kids and make a living. Some of the most underfunded missionaries are in Europe. This is just a hypothetical conversation. Many people, if we think of missionaries, and I told you, my brother, this is not against you. I think it is very important to go to the Middle East countries, to Africa, to Asia, and do ministry. Absolutely. Actually, all of these countries need more workers. My wife and I are supporting 2 missionaries who went back to Myanmar. Very important, absolutely. But just for a minute, let's do this hypothetical conversation. These 2 Land Rovers, this is especially for guys. You can tell that I put together this slide, not saying him. So these are 2 Land Rovers. And one is in the jungle, cruising going in an area where there is no road. It's rough, it's challenging. It has to go where no car has ever went before. This represents a missionary to these countries where you land there and you have to break way. I mean, there's very often no church to connect with, no mission organization to join. I mean, it is a desert and you start it from scratch. Let's say he's a real Pakistani man. What if a Pakistani man who never heard about Jesus Christ will come to the end of his life, stand before the Lord, and say that, my reason for not being a Christian, never heard about Christ, because there are very few Christians in my country. Very few. Is it true? In Pakistan, very few Christians? Absolutely. The Bible is banned or not available in many of these countries, and there is no religious freedom in many of these countries. And what is the result? He says, well, nobody told me about Christ. Nobody came to tell me. Now, in Europe, if you come as a missionary, The road is paved. There are churches you can partner with. You are not being persecuted. It is not dangerous to stand in the biggest square in Budapest and just start yelling and shouting the gospel. People are going to avoid you, probably, but they're not going to stone you. That's good. He's a real Hungarian man. Let's say he stands before the Lord. He says, there are very few Christians in Hungary. True? Absolutely, very few. The Bible is available. Actually, I bought my Bible at Goodwill here for $2. In Hungary, just as much available. You can go and buy it for very cheap. You can get it for free at some places. The Gideon Bible in every hotel. It's available. There's religious freedom, but the result will be the same. This man and many people in Hungary and in Europe will have to say, nobody told me. Nobody told me. For which of these two guys did Jesus Christ die? For both of them, right? When he says, go and make disciples of all nations, what nations is Jesus Christ thinking of? All the nations, right? It's right there, all the nations. In Europe, in Asia, in Middle East, in Africa, in North America, in Latin America, all the nations. It is our responsibility to reach out. And we are going to be held responsible. Remember from yesterday? The Master is coming back. Just in a few points about our ministry. And I have to tell you that in Hungary, we have doors wide open for the ministry. I can't complain. Our situation is just good. Very, very good. In whole Europe, none other countries enjoy so much religious freedom as we do. And let me tell you why. In 2018, I was only dreaming. We had only a vision about satellite camps. Since then, we had 8 satellite camps. 8 only because then COVID hit. And before COVID, we were able to put on 8 satellite camps, partnering with 8 different churches. We took the Word of Life camp program to local churches and helped the local church do the summer camp on their own property, in their own building, partnering with their people. So by the end of the week when we left and the camp was over, the church was still there. All those connections that were created during the week were there. So the pastor, all the youth workers were able to follow up with those kids. And since then, we have 4 lasting connections with 4 churches, and they have youth groups that were born at the satellite camp. Young people got attached to those people, got interested, and came back after camp for youth meetings. In total, we had 320 campers in these 8 satellite camps. And you see, do you know the Orioles Baltimore baseball team? There was an American team coming to help us do one of the satellite camps. The people you see in the back here, they're all American coaches. And one of them had a connection to the Orioles management. And told about this summer camp that we are planning to do, and we were planning to do a baseball camp because that is very catchy for Hungarian young girls and boys. They see it on the TV, but they never held a real baseball bat or a glove or a baseball ball. So it was very attractive for them to come to a baseball camp for the first time in their life. And Orioles sent all the equipment and all the jerseys. So we had professional, top-notch equipment, full bags of balls and helmets and gloves and everything. It was a blessing beyond belief. The kids had no idea what the Orioles team is. We told them about it is a big team. It is famous in America. They couldn't care less. They wanted to go and play baseball. Anyway, it was a blast. And we plan to continue. Hopefully COVID is behind us for good. And next summer, we can continue having satellite camps. The reason why I'm saying that we have doors wide open, because imagine this. We can go in to any public school and preach the gospel, teach the gospel, talk about Bible and God for a whole day. Any public school. Actually, directors are inviting us so much that sometimes we just have to work around the clock in the schedule to make room for all the invitations. We go into the school. Actually, the government is requiring the school that once every half a school year, they stop teaching at the school and focus on the Bible. And this is a very hard task for the teachers. Many of the teachers are not believers. They're not interested in God. They don't know the Bible. So how are they going to do it? Well, for them, the easiest thing is to call someone else to do it, and we just stand on the side and watch you guys do it. We're very happy to do that. They reach out to us, we come, and I think we're doing the best program for the kids. They love it. At the beginning of the program, very often they are skeptical. They feel like, okay, this is just another religious program. We just have to sit here and survive. We're looking forward to the end. Soon as we start the songs and the message, and the kids understand, we speak their language, we do games, they get so excited. 10 minutes into the day, and every kid you should just see the smile on their face. Their eyes are hanging on us. And at the end of the day, very often the director invites us to the office to thank the program and everything, because we do this for free. The director would ask very often, like 90% of the cases, next year, same time, are you available? Yes, of course. That's why we are here. So we start out the day with a chapel. All the students gather in the gym, the teachers, everybody, and we do a chapel with Christian music. Kids love it. Then we do some games so the kids would get rid of some energy, that it would be easier for them to listen when we go to the small group conversations. We teach them some songs. Sometimes we use the bell, especially with the little kids. And then we send everybody back to their classroom. And 2 of our staff would go to each classroom, and we have 45 minutes to talk about whatever the kids want to talk about. God, Jesus, who is Jesus? What did he do for us? Many of the kids, when they hear first time in their lives the true message of the gospel, they are very, very interested. They're hungry for the truth. What they are not hungry for, and what they are absolutely fed up and don't like, is cultural religion. But when they realize that, no, Jesus is much more than going to the church on a Sunday morning. Jesus is much more than some religious costumes in our culture. They are very interested, and they're watching, they're listening, they're interested. And we can talk about the Christian camp that we have, and many of them would show up at our Christian camp during the summer. We focus on gospel conversations instead of gospel presentations. I don't just stand up and just share the gospel in 4 points. I'm there for 45 minutes. I'm able to ask the guys, okay, God, what do you think about him? Who is he? Who is Jesus? Do you know anything about Jesus? And as we start the conversation, we are going to have a gospel conversation where I can actually answer the questions that the young people have. And the result is amazing. I think we have doors wide open, legally and spiritually. We have a Christian camp. God blessed us with a beautiful property. We have a castle and about 30 acres with a forest, a soccer field, baseball, basketball, volleyball. We have 2 lakes, a zip line. I can go on and on. It is a blessing. We didn't purchase it. We didn't have the money to purchase it. There was a German businessman, early 90s, bought the castle and the whole property and gave it to Word of Life. So that's how we are so blessed. Before you think that we are, a million profit organization, far from the truth. But we are blessed beyond what we can ask for. And we put on, I think, the country's best Christian camp. Kids come from all over the country. About 50% of the kids, the campers who show up, are absolutely non-Christian background kids. I don't know how they learn about the camp. We advertise it all over, but somehow they come, and they keep coming back. Parents trust their camp, and the kids love it. About 30% of all the kids who come to the camp, by the end of the week, they make a decision for Christ. And again, not gospel presentation, gospel conversation. Every single room leader has to be born-again Christian, mature Christian, boys and girls. Mostly young adults. We have evangelism every evening. Here I'm explaining, it was this summer, I'm explaining in a visual way, the gift of grace to the kids. What does it mean to accept the grace of God? This was Tuesday. By this time, for 2 evenings, on Sunday, I talked about who Jesus Christ is. On Monday, I would talk about what Jesus Christ did for us. And on Tuesday, I would talk about what we have to do now. What does it mean to our lives? And I would bring in a box, as wrapped up as a nice gift, and I would invite somebody up, and I would tell, well, this is the gift of God, eternal life and grace. What do you have to do to have this? And the kid would just stand there, and everybody would be like, well, what do you have to do? Well, I tell them, it's a gift. What do you have to do to have a gift? And somebody would eventually just say, just take it. Yes, just take it. It's for free. It's for you. And by the end of the evangelism, we invite them, if you understood the gospel, and if God spoke to you tonight, please stay seated. Everybody else can go, and somebody would like to come up and pray with you. This evening, so many have stayed behind. We didn't have enough staff. We had to pair the kids up. Isn't it fantastic? This is an opportunity for us to preach the gospel, and the campers are coming to us. We don't have to go anywhere. We have doors wide open. What we need is workers and missionaries to stay on the field and just do the work. I have many preaching opportunities in Hungary. As I have told many of you, in Hungary we have shortage of pastors. This is one of the biggest challenge for Hungarian churches, a shortage of pastors. I could preach in a different Hungarian church every single Sunday morning. They're inviting us because pulpit ministry is something that the churches really need. This gives me an opportunity to build connection with the churches, to start some programs, youth ministries together with the churches. And also, I'm taking a lot of Bible school students with me whenever I'm going. I'm taking a music team that is formed by the Bible school students. He and his wife, the Bible school director, they're Brazilian. This guy is Lithuanian. She is Greek. He's American. He's Brazilian. So we have a very international team. And all the kids come and experience international ministry as we go and do ministry together with the churches. This is a great opportunity to mentor young people. And there are many other things we do, but the last thing I want to mention is very often we do senior trips. American Christian School would send their senior high school student for 1 week a mission trip. We want to give them a challenge. There are very few workers. When they come, what we want to see during the week, are there any young people who would be potentially a good fit with Word of Life Hungary? Can we invite them to come and do an internship of a year, and maybe they can become full-time missionaries? So we watch very closely. We do with them street evangelism, visit orphanages, visit mental homes. This is a video where we visited a mental home where I was doing ministry for a number of years during my seminary years. It was a shock to the students to come to Hungary and visit a mental home. I think it was the first time they have visited such institution, and it was in a foreign country. It is a culture shock even for me to step in there. My wife, when we first went there, she spent like 10 minutes there. She went out and she said, I can't come back anymore. Seeing all the disabled people, the smells, some people uncontrollably shake and move, yell, but this man, and there's another guy on the side, they have already got baptized. They learned, we shared the gospel in their language. It took us like half a year until they understood the gospel. They were able to pray with us. They accepted Jesus Christ, and they requested that they would be baptized. So there are 4 patients now who are baptized. It is a very important ministry. This is probably about 60% of what we do. I don't want to list all the things that we do throughout the year. I'm very happy to talk to you in person if you're interested in more. But let me just very briefly mention one of our vision. one of our vision is to train the next generation of leaders. I think we can't do everything, and that's not the goal. The goal would be to prepare, to equip His people for work of service so that the body of Christ may be built up. We don't have to do everything. We have to do whatever is the most effective that we can do, and we need to invest in the future. I won't be on the field forever, and some of my colleagues have the same vision. We want to equip the next generation of young people. And thankfully, we got to the point where we have enough connections. Look at how many people, young people, potential leaders, potential Christian mature people who can go back to the church and play a vital part and take on the load and do ministry. This is a winter camp. The purpose with winter camp is mentorship, to build long-lasting relationships with these young people, to invite them to come to the Bible school, to equip them and train them, and then send them back to their local church, that their local church would be standing strong and would start growing. That's how we can turn a country around, by investing in the next generation. So that is our vision. We have already started. We want to continue to do. And now there's a side note in our ministry. And many of you have asked about our Ukrainian ministry. And the reason I'm saying that this is a side note is because the Ukrainian ministry came very unexpectedly. Nobody thought that this war actually would happen, would develop in the neighboring country of Hungary. And one morning we just woke up learning that Ukraine is under attack. And there are hundreds of thousands of refugees who have started moving to other parts of Europe. So we had to come up with some plans to help these people. And as I was driving up to the border in a big bus to pick up some refugees to take back to Word of Life Hungary to provide them housing and shelter for who knows how long, some of my friends from America connected me. Driving up, they texted me, "Tom, how can we help?" And I said, "I have no idea. I'm not even sure what I'm doing." But I said, let's keep praying, and we'll see how God is going to lead us. And it turned out they started a donation campaign. This is a church in Delaware, and they collected at first some $12,000. But then one of the local TV stations picked up the story, and they did a report on this, and they collected an additional $12,000. And then someone else picked it up and carried on, and we ended up with $44,000. They wired that money to a Hungarian Baptist church. One of my friends is the pastor of that church, and we spent all the money in buying groceries and filling up our car and taking it to Ukraine and taking it to shelter places in Hungary. I think we have spent all $44,000, most of it, 90% of it, just on groceries. And the need is huge. Groceries is one of the things that the Ukrainian refugees need the most. They have come in the winter time. Many of the kids didn't have proper shoes for the winter, so we went to the store and bought shoes for about 40 kids. This man here came from Ukraine, and he was leading, I think, at least 20 families. He was the pastor of that Christian community, and he came with 20 families, all having a lot of kids. You can see me here sitting with some of the kids in a room like half of the size of this stage. There were at least 12 people living, because shelters around Budapest all filled up very quickly. None of these European countries were ready to house comfortably so many people. The need was huge. And of course, these people came with a bag of clothes, very little savings. They ran out of their money in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks. And then how do they feed their family? How do they clothe their family? So it was a very much needed help that we were taking to all these people. In Ukraine, at the last trip that we have made, not long before we came to the States, this is the director of an orphanage, and you can see the minibus and our car in the back. We took some groceries, and they gave us This is a letter of acknowledgement. And the director said, this is as much as we can give at this point, but we want to express our gratitude because we have been helping them to feed the orphans and the refugees for more than 2 months. I don't know who is going to pick it up now. I told her that we're out of money. We'll see if more comes in, and we can continue to help. And I cannot finish this presentation without giving you a challenge. So I hope you forgive me for that. Yesterday, I talked about different positions in the Christian ministry. Do you remember the 4 positions? What are the 4 positions? Sender, goer, mobilizer, receiver. Yeah. And I use the illustration of the football players. If you go and tap them on the shoulder, hey dude, what position are you playing? Are they going to be able to tell you? Absolutely. They're ready to fight. I mean, soon as the game is on, these guys give 110% and just push and run and they conquer, right? How about you? Do you know your position? If I tap you on the shoulder and ask you, hey brother, sister, what position are you playing? Are you a mobilizer? Are you a sender? Are you a welcomer? Are you a goer? What position are you playing? There are many ways you can be part of God's story, God's mission to reaching to the ends of the world. I'm going to tell you about 3 ways you can partner with us if God is leading you that way. I'm not asking you to partner with us. What I'm asking you is to pray and ask God, where's my position? And if God is leading you towards partnering with us, then I'm telling you that there are 3 ways you can get involved with us. First, you can help a camper. Each summer we have about 1,000 campers, and about half of those people, half of those kids, the families who are sending the kids, have financial difficulties paying the full tuition, the full fee of the camp. No problem, we give them a discount of 20%, 30%, 50%. For some kids, we give 90% because that's how much they can afford. But we want every single kid who want to come to be able to come. But of course, that doesn't come for free because feeding the kids for 7 days, housing the kids, having all the volunteers there costs a lot of money, about $200. This is not the camp fee where we turn a profit. No, this is the break-even cost. If you would like to send a camper, you can scan the barcode and donate $200, and you just made it possible for one camper to come to a Christian camp for 1 whole week. For many of the campers, this will be the only opportunity throughout the whole year to hear the gospel in a genuine way. The other way is come and serve. We need a lot of volunteers. Before COVID, we had 7 weeks of camp, and we had 7 teams of Americans coming to each week to coach baseball, to teach English as a second language, to help out in maintenance, and just bond with the kids, just make friends, open some doors. This summer, after COVID, we had 2 teams. Many of the American partnering churches and teams found other ways to do ministry, which is great, because the rest of the world needs ministers, servers just as much. But we need a lot of volunteers now after COVID. If you would consider coming and serving during the summer for a week, there's a great need, and you would be very, very welcome. We would find you a position, I can guarantee that. And the third thing is our personal support. Last time Senia and I were here, our support level was close to 0. Now it's 61%. God is good. We have spent only 2 months raising support. Most people need a whole year. Some people need 2 years. We spent 2 months, and that 2 months God gave us 61%. We still miss about 39%. And I'm not asking you to give. Penyan Bible Church has been very, very generous. I'm talking to you now as an individual and not asking you to give, but asking you to pray. I'm sure you are familiar with William Carey. Does it ring a bell? Do you know William Carey? He was a missionary to India. And right before he sailed on to India from England, he said, there's a gold mine in India. And I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, there's a gold mine in Hungary right now. Doors wide open. There's a gold mine. But it seems as deep as the center of the earth. Who will venture to explore it? I will go down, but remember that you must hold the rope. Remember the hope? We need senders. Which of these two guys is more important? Silly question, right? If there's just a guy on the top holding the other end of the rope, but there's nobody there, he's looking stupid, right? He's just lowering a rope from the cliff. Makes no sense. What if only this guy hanging on the rope, but nobody's holding? He's not stupid. He's crazy. He's going to die, right? I look at ourselves as the ones hanging from the rope. And I'm asking you to pray and ask God, do I have to hold the other end of the rope for Tom and Senia as they are descending and venturing and reaching out to the Hungarian people? Can I ask you to please pray and ask God? And if God is calling you, you are going to find your position holding the rope. On the last day, when the Master comes, because he will come, and we stand before him, which of these people will receive a bigger reward? They're just equally important, right? Do you want to be part of the global ministry, the global mission of God? I'm inviting you to pray, and God might lead you to hold the other end of the rope for me and Senia. And if the prayer you prayed and the answer is yes, you need to come and hold the other end, there's a QR code on the back of our prayer card. Scan the code, and you can start holding the other end of the rope. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share about ministry.
Any questions you might have for Thomas?
Yes?
I have a question in reference to the government allowing you to come into the schools.
Mm-hmm.
How has that come about, and do you foresee that something that will be happening in the future, or is there a sea of change? I don't know, either way.
So the way it started, the school started opening up, we had a government change about 2 terms from now, like 9 years ago. And before that, we had a democratic socialist government, and of course they did not allow anything like that to happen. But they were changed, and they were followed by a Christian government, Christian quote unquote, culturally Christian. But they do want to appeal to Christian people because Hungary as a nation wants to return to the conservative values, and this party knows that if they look Christian, they're going to get more votes. I don't care about that. I don't care if they're genuine or not genuine, but because of this, because their political ambition, they opened the door for Christians. And they said that they are going to give every public school back to Christian denominations to operate. So every public school in Hungary now is operated and run by a Christian denomination, may it be Baptist, Roman Catholic, Lutheran, Calvinist, but it's under the operation of a Christian denomination. And the government also requires that the Bible will be taught in the public schools, and every half of the school year, they stop for a day and focus on the Bible. So this is an opportunity for us. I don't know how long this door will be open. Soon as this government loses any elections, any upcoming elections, this is over. So we just had elections. They won again, landslide. They have good support for now. So I'm hoping the doors will be open for at least a couple more sessions, maybe next 8 years. We'll see. Yeah. But we are praying, not for political reasons, but yeah. Well, if there are no other questions, yeah.
You said Islam is the fastest growing religion in Europe.
Yeah.
So any thoughts on Why? Why is it so appealing? What is the draw for people?
So I'm sure the answer to this, the full answer, would be very complex, and I'm not qualified to answer this question to the fullest, but there are two things that come to my mind. First, immigration. This is the most obvious. Hungary is not welcoming illegal immigrants at this point. We built a fence, and it's very hard to get into Hungary illegally. So they're avoiding immigrants from North Africa and Middle East. They're avoiding Hungary as much as possible. But Germany and all the Western European countries like France, Spain, Britain, they're wide open. They're welcoming all refugees from all over the world. And of course, the most refugees most of them come from an Islamic background. And they have this ambition. They even have political parties now in Sweden, in Germany, in Holland, and most Western European countries, they have political representation, and their goal, very openly and admittedly, is to turn Europe into a Muslim continent. And they're being so far very successful. Islam is rapidly gaining territories in all the major cities in Europe. And the other thing is that Islam, all the believers who want to propagate Islam and convert people, they are very passionate about it. Christians, unfortunately, they're more cultural Christian. They don't feel passionate about their own faith, and they give up easily. They don't do any ministry, any reach out to anybody. Islam, on the other hand, they're very passionate and genuine. And you know what? People long and thirst for something genuine. And if Islam is going to be the one answering their questions, going into their, they are going into Western European schools like we do now in Hungary. And if they are going to be the one setting up a genuine, something real, like values. Western Europeans have no values now. It's everything is free, everything is allowed, everybody is good, everything is welcome. This nonsense. People might say that this is good, but they don't feel good about it. Now, Islam comes and brings a set of values, and people long for something solid in their lives, and very often they will find it in Islam. And we see more and more Caucasian native Europeans wearing hijab. They're converted Muslims. Sani and I went to Germany to visit Word of Life Germany, and in Berlin we wanted to go and eat something German, just experience the culture. First time in Germany, let's eat something German. No, I'm sorry. If you go to Berlin, you can eat Lebanese, Turkish, whatever Middle Eastern food, but you will not find a German restaurant. Yeah. You can say that this is sad or whatever, but it is the reality. And yeah, it is rapidly. Oh, good one. We had a fellow missionary at Word of Life, and he wanted to go and establish Word of Life Denmark before COVID, right before COVID. And he went and did some pre-work, established some connection with churches, and he had 15 churches who were willing to partner with him if he comes within a few months and starts ministry among the young people in Denmark. And then COVID hit, and he couldn't go. He just had to postpone it with about a 1.5 year. And when he went back, all those 15 churches closed their doors. They're non-existent today. All the 15. So this guy had to give up and said, I would love to go to Denmark, but there's nobody to partner with. He couldn't find any churches who would be willing to partner with him, and all those 15 churches were non-existent when he went back after COVID. This is the spiritual situation in Europe, while in Denmark, Islam is exploding. Yeah.
I have one more question. In reference to COVID requirements to travel to Hungary, are there, I don't know if there are any.
No.
In some countries there are restrictions.
Yeah, not in Hungary. You can come to Hungary. They don't require you to have a test or vaccines, nothing. They don't ask anything. Just show your passport and you're good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. My brother said, let's go. That's what.